As far back as I can remember, I've wanted to be a gangster. To me, being a gangster is better than being President of the United States of America. Even before I walked into that cab stand to get myself an after-school job, I knew I wanted to be a part of them. It's where I felt like I belonged. To me, it meant being a somebody in a neighborhood full of nobodies. They were different than everybody else. They did whatever they wanted. I mean, they would double park in front of a hydrant, nobody writes them a ticket. In the summer, they play cards all night, nobody calls the cops. Tony Cicero, Tutty. Now, Tutty ran the cab stand in the Bella Vista Pizzeria and a few other places around town for his brother Paul. Now, Paul was the boss of everyone in the neighborhood. Paulie might have moved a little slow, but it was only because Paulie didn't move for anybody. At first, my parents were happy that I had a job. My father was an Irishman. He had to get a job when he was 12 years old, so he was just proud of me that I went out and found something. And my mother was happy when she found out that the Varios are from the same part of Sicily that we are. It was the answer to her prayers. I was the luckiest kid in the world. I could go wherever I wanted. I could do whatever I wanted. I knew everybody. Everybody knew me. But after a while, my parents changed their minds. See, to them, the cab stand was just a part-time job, but to me, it was full-time. I was treated like a grown-up. I was learning how to score every day. People like my father, they don't understand, but I was part of something. You know, I belonged. My father was pissed off all the time. You know, he was pissed off that he worked so hard. He was pissed off that he made such lousy money. He was pissed off that all 7 of us had to live in such a tiny house. But eventually he was just pissed off that I hung around the cab stand so often. He'd say, "They're all bums and you're a bum and you're going to get yourself into trouble." I'd say, I'm only running errands after school, but he knew better. He knew what went down at the cab stand. And every once in a while, usually after he got his load on, I had to take a beating. But by then, I didn't care. It didn't matter how much I had to take a beating. I wasn't listening. In fact, I don't even think I heard him. As far as I see it, everybody's got to take a beating sometime. And then, no more calls from the truant officer. No more calls from school. In fact, no more calls from anybody else. How could I go back to school and listen to the government bullshit and pledge allegiance to the flag after that? Hundreds of people worked for Paulie. And he got a cut of everything they made. In exchange, he offered protection from the guys trying to screw you. It was a tribute. Like the old country, but they were doing it in America. That's all it was. But that's what the FBI guys can never understand. That all Paulie and the organization were offering was protection for the guys who can't go to the cops. It was like a police department for the wise guys. You know, people looked at me differently after that. They knew I was with somebody. I didn't have to wait in line on Sunday morning at the bakery for fresh bread anymore. The owner would come around the counter no matter how many people were waiting in line and take care of me first. At 13, I was making more money than most of the grown-ups in my neighborhood. I was making more money than I knew what to do with. One time, some of the neighborhood kids carried my mother's groceries all the way from the grocery store to our house. It was out of respect for me.